There are certain things in our lives we never really get around to achieving. The bucket list sometimes accomplishes this, but this approach is kind of late. There are reasons for characterizing it as being late, mostly due to enjoying life and experiencing an understanding about yourself. Most of our avoidance of certain achievements are due to one thing: fear. This fear doesn't necessarily reside in the individual, but in others who wish to instill their fear in you, consciously or subconsciously. The key is to identify your fears no matter where it comes from and overcome them by addressing it head on. All of Asia and India have cultures where the common man rides a motorcycle of some sort as a basic form of transportation, but not in the United States. Why is this? Two reasons. The first is to burn gas. They wanted Americans to burn more gas than any other country because our economy was more conducive towards this consumerism. General Motors disassembled the public transportation system in Los Angeles in the 1940s because the goal was to fill the city with highways, cars, and burning gas. So the angle on motorcycles in America became a fear of safety issue. It worked. A lot of people did get hurt on motorcycles and even killed, mostly because of alcohol. Riding during rush hour where cars can hit you, not other bikes of course, because our roads are filled with vehicles. Cars cost at least 4, if not 10 times as much as a motorcycle. They are 10 times more expensive to insure, and cars burn 5 times more gasoline. You ride a motorcycle 200 miles and you may end up with a $10 gas bill. $10 even with these high gas prices. But this is not the main reason for why you should ride. You should ride because you want to ride. But the reason why you don't is our culture is indoctrinated fear. It's a bicycle with a motor. That's it. Your choice of motorcycle is based on your confidence level, experience, and of course your height. The shorter the seat height, the safer it is for you to recover in a slow maneuver, which can cause your balance to be at risk. This is the only issue you need to address when approaching the idea of learning to ride. How to control the motorcycle at slow speeds, because it is the most dangerous of any speed. Motorcycles require you to keep them moving forward at least 15 miles per hour, otherwise you can get a little flaky, generally speaking. The lower you are to the ground, your center of gravity becomes an advantage, as well as the length of your legs, acting as a kickstand in case of a tilt. That should be your only concern and fear in riding a motorcycle. That's it. So why all the fear in America? Not only that, but the state government doesn't provide an easy means to ride. You can't just ride a motorcycle on the street. You need a license, or at very least a permit. You pass a written test in most states and you can legally ride on the streets, which I guess you could say is the state's kind gesture for learning for a certain period of time before being required to take the street skills test, riding slow and performing maneuvers. So how do you approach this with confidence and safety? First, learn the test and get the permit. It's not that hard, and there are tests online that you can take, as well as reading a 40-page handbook in an hour. Secondly, find a friend with a bike. If a friend won't help, then pass the test and buy a bike, used or not. The least expensive bike to learn on that will keep you entertained is the Yamaha MT-03. It has a low seat height and revs high without problems when you need it, and you won't endanger yourself with its small engine. Suzuki makes an inexpensive cruiser, and Honda makes inexpensive Rebel models in the 250 and 500. Either way, you learn on a lightweight bike with a low seat height and enjoy moving forward, as Don Draper would say. A word of emphasis on choosing a bike. If you don't like to trade your vehicles that often, then choose wisely. One variable becomes apparent. A small displacement bike can get boring. Not that you can't go fast, but the mid-level displacement, real-world acceleration abilities make it the most entertaining and practical choice in terms of safety and entertainment. Not having enough power in your bike is in theory a safety concern, but that is up to the individual and not necessarily a statement of fact. You just want to get a bike and not be bored within 3 months. And there are transitions you make towards the feeling of your bike because we all window shop for something better. Secondly, remind yourself about weight. I listened to a few people wishing to neglect the weight of a bike because they wanted a Harley so bad. Okay, ignore weight. But when you are learning, you want positive experiences, and part of having that is to eliminate these elements which can create a problem when something does go slightly wrong, and it only requires something slightly to go wrong. A heavy bike is a bad idea. To follow this, a bike where your feet aren't flat on the ground is a bad idea when learning. Experience will not allow this, and you will fall. It's just physics. Don't buy a bike you can't flat foot. I have both, and fortunately my higher bike's rear suspension has some give to it now, so I'm almost flat footing it. But I need to always be more diligent on that bike because it has a higher center of gravity, weighs more, and is hard to pick up if dropped. My flat-footed bike is a piece of cake and builds confidence. Bikes are like computers. They will make you look good one minute and a fool the next. Be aware and you will be fine. Ending on this idea, understand the controls of a car were designed so the average IQ could drive one. A steering wheel in the seated position with a brake and accelerator. The human brain can handle those 3 controls much like a monkey could. This was intentional in its design. It's amazing how the human animal can adapt from knowing nothing to actually driving a car. The World Wars were a great example of taking kids and teaching them to fly or navigate tanks. Motorcycles are no different except for one element: balance. Some personalities just can't manage the throttle to the balance of a bike. Zero finesse. And guess what they do? That's right, they ride the bike right into a tree upon first experience. I bring this up to contrast and make sure you understand the human variable of being able to ride. It requires personalities who have the ability to adapt to new things, as there are some who simply can't. It's all in their head, but they should stick to the horse and buggy and find a therapist. What motorcycles do for you is more than cheaper transportation. They provide a next level of self-confidence you've been missing your whole life. Why is this so? Because of the openness experience car drivers forget and take for granted. After riding a motorcycle, you realize how much any size car is nothing but 4 walls of metal in a lighter version of a tank. This tank helps contain your fears with the airbags and metal around you. However, you can't really see the world around you when contained in this box. Truly, when you ride a motorcycle, the psychological and visual impedance disappears and you become so much more aware of your surroundings. It's like being on a ride at an amusement park without the fear of being eaten by an alligator. Most importantly, when you learn to ride a motorcycle, it becomes a hobby where you learn how to ride it better the more times you ride. Your improvement does happen in stages, and you move through those stages pretty quickly if you ride consistently. Most learn to ride functionally in 6 months, but after 9 months, you are proficient enough to take the street skills test. After 2 years, your riding skill will be confident enough to ride any bike you want within reason. But most importantly, as these months pass, you begin to ask yourself, why didn't I learn to ride as a child? The reason? Fear.